the higher planes. Therein, it is a different eye that sees, a different ear that hears, and a different nose that smells. You know already that there are inner senses, counterparts of the external senses in man, and it is with the former, which means the inner senses, that one experiences the higher planes. Because as gross conscious human being, we are associating everything with the physical organ. But the moment we graduate into the subtle plane, which we do not know what it is, when we go there, we'll know. Then all these things becomes useless. Although you still have a gross body, you still speak, eat, talk, walk, sleep, do everything with the gross body, but your consciousness is now focused on the subtle, and this gross does not bind you. Very important thing. A subtle conscious human being may do anything gross. It does not bind, because whatever he does in the gross, he has no gross consciousness to bind him. You see, so he has already elevated himself in the subtle. Similarly, in the mental.
Avoid the mistake of likening the sound of the higher planes to something different in intensity and frequency of vibrations to the sound of the physical plane.
So don't think that it is higher in intensity and it is higher in frequency. No, it is of a totally different quality, which you cannot imagine what it is.
Knowing for a certainty that there is actually what may be called sound in the first three planes. The form, beauty, music, and bliss of this sound are beyond description. The nad, or celestial music, is peculiar to the first plane, which Hafiz refers to as warm exhalasi, the ringing of the bells.
So here we are getting a clue, in a sense, the key, that the first initiation from the gross to the subtle, you get to know with the sound. So the sounds are the first sign where you can know that, okay, maybe I am just transiting from gross to the subtle.
As stated above, although there is sound in all the seven planes, it is smell that is peculiar to the second and third planes, while sight belongs to the fifth and sixth planes.
So as you get established in the first plane, the sense of touch, what we call as samvedna, and the sense of taste, tikha, mitha, khatta, it goes away. So if you, COVID maybe it goes away. so, so if you experience that in COVID, don't think that you have already gone into the COVID made a sense of touch will remain. So if somebody says that, oh, I am not able to get a sense of taste, that means I have entered into the first plane, give him a tight slap and see whether he is doing ouch. If he does it, that means the sense of touch is still there. So in the first plane, the sense of touch and the sense of taste goes away. Very heightened sense of hearing happens. So this is the predominant characteristic of the first plane. In the second and third plane, the predominant characteristics is the smell. It is the smell that is peculiar to the second and third plane. So you will have such aroma, such, I don't know what you may say, such smells that you have never had that feeling or experience in the gross. Totally different. And it is the sight, that means the sight, the noor of Khuda, which is the peculiarity which belongs to the fifth and the sixth plane. In the fifth plane, the sight of God is there. He has the feeling of seeing God everywhere, but it's dhundla, as we say, very blurred, not very clear. And the moment you go into the sixth plane, the person on the fifth plane is known as a wali, a friend of God. A person who goes into the sixth plane is called a peer. A peer sees everything that is God. Nothing is there except God. I am there, separate, and God is there. But I am not yet one with God. So Baba says elsewhere that last residual vestige of duality is the third eye or the inner eye or the spiritual eye, which separates the seer from the seen, which separates the lover from the beloved. And when that is dissolved, when the sight is dissolved, you merge with the beloved and experience the oneness. The sight is there till the end. On the third, second and third, you have the smell, and on the first, the predominant aspect is the sound.
The seventh plane stands unique. Here, the sound, sight, and smell are divine in essence and have no comparison to those emanating from the lower planes. In this plane, one does not hear, smell, or see, but one becomes sound, smell, and sight simultaneously and is divinely conscious of it.
In other words, seventh plane is the grand finale, you can say. It is from darkness to light, from dream to awake state, from Dvaita, Dui, into oneness or Advait, from, you can say, from illusion to the reality. So that is, once you get there, then you are everyone and everything. There is no separation between the knower, the process of knowing, and knowledge. You become knowledge itself. You become sound itself. You become sight itself. So, because why? Because you are one with everyone and everything. So that is why Baba says that there is no comparison. In this plane, one does not hear, smell, or see, but one becomes sound, smell, and sight simultaneously and is divinely conscious of it. The consciousness is always there. Yeah. So now we have finished this supplement for supplement number 3. Now we again turn back to page number 42. Right.
At this stage, the involved gross consciousness of the gross conscious human soul gets the first glimpses of the first plane of the subtle world and experiences these glimpses or impressions partially through the gross body and partially through the subtle body. Here, both the gross and the subtle senses are used simultaneously.
Because as I said, the transition is so smooth that sometimes he uses the gross to experience the subtle, sometimes he uses the subtle to experience the subtle. So it's a, but that my understanding is that period is very short, Once you go into the subtle totally, then you are cut off from the gross, then you do not go back to the gross. So in this, Baba says, at this stage, the involved gross consciousness of the gross conscious human soul gets the first glimpses of the first plane of the subtle world and experiences these glimpses or impressions partially through the gross body and partially through the subtle body. So here both the gross and the subtle senses are used simultaneously. Gradually now it is growing.
This is the stage when it is said that the human soul stands, as it were, on the line of
Somit.
demarcation as shown in the sketch.
Yeah. Now you, okay, now in God Speaks on page 55, there is a sketch. If you have God Speaks, you can see, or otherwise you can see it on the screen. Page number, that's the only one line you can see. 1 minute. Page number 55. You are showing it there, no? Yeah, you can show it there also. You can see the chart. This is the first chart. And the lower arc, the lower line, where it says gross world. Now, what does gross world include? It includes universes which are visible and invisible. We have got no idea of the vastness of the gross world. Baba is using the term that it keeps on expanding ad infinitum. And scientists are now seeing that universes after universes are being produced and they are being accommodated in space. In other words, there is no shortage of space in space. It may be shortage is there in Bombay, Pune, Amarnagar, wherever, but no shortage. Why? Because space is nothing but the shadow of God. And since God is infinite, his shadow also is infinite. So it keeps on accommodating. So here Baba says gross world includes universes, visible and invisible. Scientists have said that there are some universes and stars and planets. The light, we know light travels so fast. The light of which has not yet reached Earth. So you can imagine the vastness, how far it would be, and yet it is just a speck, it is just a dot which is accommodated in the space. And space, as I said, is nothing but the shadow of the oversoul, that is God. Then it goes on saying, imbibing. Gross world, although we are in the gross world, we are imbibing energy from the subtle world through gross aspects of energy such as nuclear, solar, etc. We had done this earlier. That although we all are gross conscious human beings, we are utilizing the energy of the subtle world and the mind of the mental world unconsciously and indirectly without knowing how we are utilizing it. We don't know. In the same way, a subtle conscious human being will be living in the gross world, eating, drinking, sleeping, as I said, doing everything, without knowing what he is doing in the gross world, and similarly in mental also. So that is what the beauty of it is, that all these three worlds we are utilizing the requirements that are there, but our consciousness is focused only depending upon our prepondering samskaras. If my samskaras are only gross, I can access consciously the gross world, unconsciously the subtle and the mental. I don't know how I'm getting my energies from, or where from I am getting thoughts. I cannot do anything about my thoughts and desires and all that. And imbibing the aspects of mind of the mental world such as desires, thoughts and emotions. So in other words, based on our own samskaras, we are lodged in that particular world, gross, subtle or mental, but we are using the entire aspect of gross, subtle and mental other than where we are stationed, which is indirectly and unconsciously. Okay? Clear? So this is what I wanted to show, that arc where Baba is showing that now the gross world is finishing. Now this, you can say aspirant or hero, or whatever you want to call it, wayfarer, is now gradually going into the subtle world. But that, this chart for today, we are only seeing this particular line. Later on, we'll be talking about the other aspects of the chart. Okay. Again to page number 42.
This is the stage when it is said that the human soul stands, as it were, on the line of demarcation as shown in the sketch.
That is the line of demarcation. Sometimes he is more gross than subtle. Sometimes he is more subtle than gross. Sometimes he uses his gross apparatus. Sometimes subtle. I presume it is for a very short time, and then immediately he jumps into the subtle.
Which demarks the gross world from the subtle world. The consciousness of this human soul experiences strange things. With his gross eyes, He sees glimpses of the subtle plane with his gross ears. He hears celestial music of the subtle plane, and with his gross nose, he enjoys subtle scents. In short, the gross conscious human soul, partially on the first plane of the subtle world, experiences subtle impressions with gross
So
senses.
this is the initial stage where he is experiencing subtle impressions with the gross apparatus, with the gross senses. Now, many times, I just remembered somebody praising some other guru or some very high soul and all that. And Baba sometimes would say that उनको तो अभी हवा भी नहीं लगी है. He has not even got the breeze. Now here this person on the gross plane is getting a breeze of the subtle plane, although he is still in the gross, so he get a breeze. So he would say that he has not even got the hawa of the subtle plane. Forget about being on the plane, not even got the breeze. So like for example, if the rain is going to come, we get a breeze, a nice aroma of rain coming and all that. So that is how this experience of this gross planar is. And he feels a little bit bewildered because he's hearing some sounds which he has never seen, never heard, or smells which he has never smelled. So it's like that.
Gradually, with further involution of gross consciousness, the gross conscious human soul experiences completely the first plane of the subtle world.
Thak. Now he has gone into the, jumped into the demarcation line that we saw just now. Now he has put both the legs. Previously it was like this, sometimes like this, sometimes. Now he has jumped into the, now he is firmly established in the first plane, which is the involutionary journey, the starting point, never to go back into the gross consciousness. Try to understand, if at all the person dies, in which he will, and if he is reborn, which he will, then he will still have a gross body. And the consciousness of the subtle plane will unfold itself in a gradual manner. It is not that at birth only that soul will know, oh, I am a subtle conscious. No, he will still experience the grossness, and then gradually the plane will unfold itself, and the same thing till you reach realization.
Now, the gross conscious human soul is no longer gross conscious, but the subtle conscious.
Now he is certified, subtle conscious human being.
This subtle conscious human soul gradually becomes conscious of the second plane
Now he is becoming conscious of the second plane
of the subtle world.
of the subtle world, and there is another asterisk mark, but we'll read the paragraph. Yeah.
This subtle world is the domain of infinite energy, the infinite power of God, which, when translated into the finite, here manifests in the form of the infinite energy of the subtle world.
Sukshma. Gross is Sthul, subtle is Sukshma, mental is Mana. Sukshma, it is a plane of energy where the finite aspect of the infinite power of God, in a sense, seeps into that plane, sipping drop by drop, and the person starts experiencing some riddhi siddhi or powers. Now we go back to page number 203 for explanation of the second plane. Go ahead.
The second plane. Hafiz evidently refers to the second plane when he says, Che huyamat ke be harne dush mospo haram surush alam gaibam chi muzdeha daudas. How should I reveal to you that last night in the tavern, intoxicated and unsteady as I was, great good tidings were brought to me by the angel of the living world?
Now the person has gone into the second plane. That means more power, more, riddhi siddhi. So he says, Hafiz says, how should I reveal to you that last night in the tavern is the mekhana. The mekhana, we can call it, a bar kind of thing, but here it's a spiritual mekhana where the saki or the higher souls will pour divine wine and you get intoxicated into that. How should I reveal to you that last night in the tavern, intoxicated and unsteady as I was, great good tidings were brought to me. Tidings would mean good news, information. So now he's getting all the information about the powers, about the subtle energies, and how we can make use of it. Great good tidings were brought to me by the angel of the hidden world. He doesn't know who is bringing all this thing, but he feels very high with that feeling. Now we again go back to page number 43.
When in the human form, the soul has subtle consciousness, it is unconscious of the body, gross, and mind or the mental body, but it does work through the gross body and through the mind, mental body, not directly, but in the subtle plane.
On the subtle plane. So here again we are repeating the same thing, that a subtle conscious human being is not connected with the gross, is not connected with the mental, is not connected with God, but it uses the gross aspect of the gross world and the mental aspects of the mental world unconsciously and indirectly. So I'll repeat this paragraph. When in human form, the soul has subtle consciousness. Now, though it is thoroughly established in the subtle plane, it is unconscious of the body, which means gross. Not conscious, he's doing everything, but not conscious of the gross. And mind, which is the mental body, but it does work through the gross body and through the mind, not directly, but on the subtle plane. The example I had given and I keep giving is that of a somnambulist, a sleepwalker, somebody who wakes up in the middle of the night, walks to the fridge, opens, eats, drinks, whatever, goes back to sleep. Tomorrow morning, if you tell him, Baba, you ate, where is the cheese that I had kept in the fridge? He says, I don't know, I have not eaten. But Soumya is awake. She is seeing that I am getting up and having all these things. But I am not aware of it because I am not conscious of the gross. But she is gross. So because a person is gross, I will observe the other person as doing gross acts. But actually he is on the subtle. He is not even aware of what he is doing. It's a very revealing thing which we have never heard in any of the spiritual literature, where a a subtle conscious saint or yogi or a Mahayogi is on the fourth plane. Kuber is also called Kuber. They are not even conscious of their gross. What they are doing, they are not conscious. And obviously they are not bound by the gross that way.
So, even if the subtle conscious human soul is unconscious of the gross body and mental body, and therefore does not realize the gross and mental worlds, he can use the gross body through various aspects of the gross, such as eating, drinking, sleeping, seeing, feeling, hearing, etc. And he can use the mental body through various aspects of mind, mental body, such as desires, thoughts, and emotions.
He is using it, but he is not conscious of it.
The subtle conscious human soul on the second plane, with greater involution of consciousness, is gradually gaining consciousness of the infinite energy of the subtle world and is capable of performing tricks or minor miracles of lower degree.
So now, subtle plane is the plane of energy. And he has access to energy as how we have access to gross. I have got access to this bottle. I can do it. So in the same way, I can't see energy, I don't know energy, I can't analyze energy, I can't access energy, I can't use energy. But a person on the subtle plane, for him, energy is more visible, accessible, usable, doable than a person on the gross plane. So then he is now in full, not control, he knows everything connected with energy.
For instance, with one wish, he can make a dry tree green and vice versa. He can
So
stop
these are called small tricks or small miracles. He can do that.
He can stop rainy trains and water cars, fill a dry well with fresh water, and so forth. This subtle conscious human soul on the second plane experiences the subtle world with the subtle senses of a subtle body. He is now totally unconscious of the gross world, although from all outward appearances he remains and functions as an ordinary man, eating, sleeping, and having feelings of pain and pleasure, etc. Yet, actually, his involving consciousness experiences not the gross but the subtle world and creates fresh, subtle impressions only of the sights, scents, and sounds of the subtle world.
Excuse me. Here, he is now totally unconscious of the gross world, although from all outward appearances, he remains and function as an ordinary man. It is only an outward appearance. And then here another important knowledge that we get is whatever he does, he is now accumulating and using subtle impressions, not gross. Gross impressions are not there at all. So there's no question of using, no question of accumulating because his consciousness is not gross. So now he is dealing with impressions that are connected with sight, sense, and sounds of the subtle world. He has left the other two senses.
Third plane.
Now he is going on to the third. How fast we are progressing. In half an hour we have come. Third plane.
Further involution of the subtle consciousness of the subtle conscious human soul makes the soul experience the third plane of the subtle world. This is
Here again there's an asterisk, but we'll complete the paragraph.
Here, the subtle consciousness gains greater consciousness of the infinite energy of the subtle world, and the soul experiences greater finite power. Here, he is capable of performing grand miracles such as giving sight to the blind.
See, giving sight to the blind is no big deal for a person of third plane of consciousness. He can give sight.
And restoring limbs to the maimed. Here, the subtle conscious human soul is also capable of experiencing the different planes and worlds of the subtle sphere, just as a gross conscious human soul is capable of traveling from Asia to Australia or America using the gross vehicles at his disposal.
But there's another asterisk 6, but we'll come to that later. So here what Baba is saying, just as how a gross conscious human being can move around the gross world according to his own convenience by boat or by aeroplane or by train, here, there, everywhere, in the same way, a subtle conscious human being who is established in the third plane can move around the first, the second, the third, as and how he wants to move around. Obviously cannot go to the fourth because he has not yet entered the fourth. So here we have got two asterisks, 5 and 6. So we move on to page number 203 again.
The third plane. Hafiz refers to the third plane in the following words. Che Ra Mizanan in Mutrebe Muqam Shinas Ke Dor Nyo E Gozel Ole E Ashina Awan. What perturbation and distress this musician with knowledge of spiritual states and stages is causing the listeners, lovers, by interpolating in the midst of his performance
Now, this reminds me that even when Baba, when a ghazal or a bhajan were being sung, he would interpolate, which he would intervene and explain the deeper nuances of the words of the ghazal and all that. So here, the aspirant on the third plane is saying, what perturbation, which means unaccountable agitation, because perturbedness, yeah, and distress we know. This musician, because the music is so different, and that music is going on, and somebody interpolates and gives deeper aspects of that meaning. What perturbation and distress this musician, with knowledge of spiritual states and stages, is causing the listeners, that means the lovers, by interpolating to inferring or extending the known information, interpolating in the midst of his performance the words of the divine beloved. So, what Hafiz is trying to make us understand as to what a third plane person would experience when you are on the third plane. Then there's another one, 6.
The stage between the third and the fourth planes.
Hmm.
The journey between the third and the fourth planes is at once difficult and dangerous because between these two planes there is the point of enchantment, mukam hai. It is very difficult to pass out of this state of enchantment if the pilgrim once stops there, although most pilgrims pass directly from the third to the fourth plane. Unless the pilgrim gets out of the state quickly and proceeds onwards to the fourth plane, his progress will be held up indefinitely.
So now, first, second, and third planes are purely in the subtle world. The fourth plane is like a go between, like a threshold between the third and the fifth. The third is in the subtle world, the fifth is in the mental world. That is the most dangerous plane to be on, the fourth plane. Now, before you go from the third to the fourth, there is what Baba calls a mukame hairat. You may get trapped into this mukame hairat, means enchantment. There is so much of enchantment that if you wait or spend time lingering in that mukam, then there is a possibility that you will get trapped. You see, it is said that many people, for example, Muhammad the Must, he was trapped in that mukame hairat between the third and the fourth plane. He was taking bath and he put his hand up and he was like this. And people stay like this, not just for days or weeks or months, sometimes for years, till some perfect master or somebody on the higher plane comes and helps the person to come out of that hairat. So that is a very dangerous place to be in, and therefore Baba emphasizes on focus on the goal, not going into the mela. We call it a mela, a fair where you can get lost. And once you get lost, those who get lost are called musts. So the state of must is not something that you should aspire for. It is something which you should avoid to go. You must straight walk from third to the fifth or fourth instead of getting entrapped into the hairat. So if the pilgrim once stops there, although most pilgrims pass directly from the third to the fourth plane, unless the pilgrim gets out of this state quickly and proceeds onwards to the fourth plane, his progress will be held up indefinitely.
Once a pilgrim becomes thus enchanted, he remains so for days, months, or years together. He can neither make further progress nor can he retrogress. He is neither gross conscious nor subtle conscious. Neither can he be called unconscious because he is fully conscious of the enchantment, and it is because of this consciousness of the enchantment that he lives this living death.
He is so entrapped. He can't move forward. He can't move backwards. He doesn't know what to do. He is dazed. Like how, in the game of chess, you call it, uh, what is called as checkmate. You can't move. You can't move this way. You can't move that way. You are helpless, and you are living what Baba calls a living death, unless and until some external force, comes, jhatka, and you may come out of that dazedness, or a perfect master will, if you're fortunate, he can bring you out of that.
The physical condition of the deeply enchanted pilgrim is no less strange, for if he seats himself in a particular position, he remains in that position for months or years together.
Because that Hairat may come at any given point, whatever you may be. I'm doing like this,
Statue.
I will remain like this unless Baba comes and gives me a tapli and I am out of it. So that is Baba is trying to emphasize that this is a stage where you have to be very, very watchful. You must go straight rather than wasting any time in enjoying the so-called enchantment of the plane, because we get enchanted by the gross beauty of so many things. Baba said that is nothing, that is negligible, absolutely no compare to the enchantment of the planes. So here also we are playing with games, and there if you have the habit of playing with games, which would also include doing some chota mota miracles, then you can get trapped and you can get lost and you'll be wasting your time.
Similarly, if he becomes enchanted while standing, he will continue standing until the enchantment ends. In short, he remains stationary in the position in which he first becomes enchanted, and although he may appear to be a lifeless statue, he is in fact more alive than the ordinary man of the world.
He may look like a statue, but from the spiritual standpoint, he is more alive because he's already traversed the three spiritual paths. And poor fellow, he is now trapped up between the third and the fourth. Go ahead.
It is well known in the Sufi world how Ali Ahmad Sabi of Piran Kalyan, who afterwards became a perfect master, once remained standing for years near a certain tree. During this period, Sabi's mind was absorbed in the enchantment of this Mukame Hayat, and he was delivered from it by a kutub. Only natural death or divine help from a living master can help such a dazed pilgrim out of a spiritual stalemate. A master would
The
help.
correct word was stalemate.
Not check.
Stalemate, yeah.
A master would help such a pilgrim either by bringing him back to the third plane or by pushing him onwards.
So depending upon various circumstances, the master, and when Baba talks about the master, obviously he means a perfect master. He, in his own judgment, would sometimes push him down to the third plane, or pull him up to the fourth plane, so that he is out of that enchantment.
Hafiz, no doubt, thinks of the state of the pilgrim when he says, Mostam kung pong shinan kena danam zibi khudi dor dore arshi khoyal ki amad kudam raft.
Excuse
Make
our
me so
our pronunciation of these.
Persian.
It could be it's a Persian, yeah.
Make me so dazed and intoxicated that, on account of this state of forgetfulness, I should be oblivious of what came into my mind and of what passed out of it.
In other words, in a sense, he is beseeching the Lord that do let me pass through this state of forgetfulness in such a manner that I do not know what came in and how it went out. So, in other words, make me so forgetful that I am not aware of this Mukame Hairat. This is my interpretation.
Meher Baba explains that a pilgrim runs the risk of entering Mukame Hairat, state of enchantment, when he passes from the third to the fourth plane. There are, he says, states of enchantment on other parts of the path also. But the most important is that between the third and the fourth planes.
That means this state of enchantment is there throughout the planes. You get enchanted because you are now some things which you have never experienced in your gross life. You get powers, you get sounds, you get smells, you get sights, you get this. So there is a possibility that you might like to play around with some one particular aspect of that plane, and you might get enchanted and you may get trapped in it. But Baba says those are very halka fulka, very light enchantment. It will not catch you in a manner as the Mukame Hairat between the third and the fourth plane will trap you.
This Hairat, enchantment, may be strong or feeble. If there is no hitch or disturbing factor present at the moment that a pilgrim becomes enchanted, then the Hairat is deep or strong. If there is a disturbing factor present at that moment, then the Hairat is feeble.
Supposing he is about to go into the Hairat and he is a married person and his wife is jabbering. So then there's a disturbance. So the Hairat will not be deep. It will be very feeble. So in that sense, it is such a great help.
Tukaram's wife?
Tukaram, it is said that he turned in, it is said, I have not read Tukaram's life, because he was so fed up with his wife, all the time criticizing, all the time saying things, that ultimately that led him towards God. You see, that led him towards God. So here Baba says, if at the time of entering the Hairat, if there is no disturbance, then the Hairat would be very strong, very deep, and it will be prolonged. But if there is any disturbance, which could be anything, I'm just joking about, but it could be any disturbance, something to do with noise, something to do with pain, something to do with whatever, any kind of disturbance, then the Hairat is feeble and weak, and one may hope to come out of it easily.
If a pilgrim experiences either strong or feeble Hairat between the third and the fourth planes and is then pushed forward by accident to higher plane, he invariably goes to a position between the fifth and sixth planes, again with the same strong or feeble Hairat.
Now this is again a revelation that this Mukame Hairat is between the third and the fourth plane. So that Hairat may be feeble or it may be strong. But if it is feeble, or irrespective of whether it is feeble or strong, if some kind of an accident takes place when he is in that stage, then he will not go to the fourth plane, but he will again go between the fourth and the fifth plane, in between. See, that way, not on the plane itself. Fifth and the sixth plane. Sorry, fifth and the sixth plane.
However, such instances are very rare. Ali Ahmad Sabir of Kalyar and Baba Abdur Rahman of Bombay both were precipitated from a very strong Hairat between the third and fourth planes into a very strong Hairat
Between the fifth.
to 205.
Page number 205. We are continuing with the same
Between
fifth.
sixth
Yeah,
planes.
fifth and the sixth.
Correct.
Yeah,
Cyrus had said wrong, we corrected him.
I corrected myself. I stand corrected sittingly.
I read it.
Sittingly.
I read it. He
Yeah, it-
invariably goes to a position between the fifth and sixth planes, again with the same strong or feeble Hairat. However, page 205, fifth line.
First paragraph, yeah.
However, such instances are very rare. Ali Ahmad Sabir of Kalyar and Baba Abdur Rahman of Bombay both were precipitated from a very strong hayrat between the third and fourth planes into a very strong hayrat between the fifth and the sixth planes. The former by a gift of grace from a kutub, and the latter through God's gift in the shape of an accident.
About I'm saying, about Baba Abdur Rahman, just a few words that we know of is that his dargah is at Dongri at Bombay, Muhammad Ali Road. And he was given God realization by Hazrat Baba Jan. And he was the chargeman of Bombay. And if I'm not mistaken, after his passing over, it was the Umar Baba who took over as the chargeman. And then it was Tipu Baba. All these aspects are written in our chronicle, the Bombay connection. And we had been to all those places. So that was Abdur Rahman. Another aspect of Abdur Rahman is when Baba started walking from the Jhopdi, Ferguson's College Road, Jhopdi, to Bombay. The entire team came walking, and I think somewhere around Panvel, they hired a lorry, which is a truck. So the first obeisance, respect, at Pune was to Hazrat Baba Jan. And when they entered Bombay, the first stop was Abdur Rahman's Dargah, where Baba asked all the companions to go and pay their respects to Abdur Rahman's Dargah. And Baba himself stayed back and Ramju in the lorry, in the truck. And I think it was Ramju Abdullah who came back after paying the respect and noticed that Baba was doing what we call as Sashtang Namaskar on the floor of the truck facing Abdur Rahman's Samadhi, Dargah.
A complete fixity of posture that lasts until death or until a perfect master is contacted is seen only in those pilgrims who have a very strong hayrat.
So once you get into a hayrat, you stay there till a perfect master helps you, or till you die, or you get an accident whereby you may shift from between 3 and 4 to between 5 and 6.
A mast, God intoxicated, who has been with Meher Baba for many years, was in this Mukame Hayrat between the third and fourth planes when he was brought to Meher Baba in Rahuri in 1936. But his Hayrat was feeble, and although he would stand for many hours at a stretch in one position, this position would not be maintained permanently.
Baba is referring to the must, Muhammad Must. And we all know that Pleader was the one who saw him at the Muhammad Ali Road, and then he took him to Baba's Rahuri ashram.
The enchantment of Ali Ahmad Sabir, however, was a strong one, and he remained in one posture until he was finally delivered from the enchantment by a kutub. The state of enchantment should on no account be confused with the catatonic stupor of a schizophrenic, although it may appear similar. Both are states of enchantment, but they are poles apart.
Catatonic means motionless, unresponsive, withdrawn, as from a shock. That is the meaning of catatonic. Stupor of a schizophrenic is exhibiting some kind of a wildly changeable behavior. We know all that. So although it may appear to be the same, but they are a world apart. So now we go back again to page number 44. Go ahead.
The second and third planes of the subtle spheres are the two major planes which are solely in the domain of the subtle sphere. The first plane is partially in the domain of the subtle sphere and partially in the gross sphere. Similarly, the fourth plane is partially of the subtle sphere and partially of the mental sphere. This fourth plane is known as the threshold of the mental sphere.
What we also call, uh, yeah, that's for the fourth plane, the dark night of the soul, you know. So the first plane of the subtle sphere is like partially go between the gross and the subtle. The second and the third plane are completely, solely, fully, only in the subtle sphere. The fourth again is partially in the subtle and partially in the mental. And the fifth and the sixth plane are totally in the mental.
Fourth plane, with a gradual and further gain in the involution of the consciousness of the subtle conscious human soul, the consciousness of the soul inclines the soul to experience the fourth plane. On the fourth plane, the soul is fully conscious of infinite energy. It is the very same infinite energy which is the shadowy aspect of that infinite power of God. Here, the soul is equipped with full power and is even capable of raising the dead and of creating new forms and worlds breathing with life. There's an asterisk. The Vijnan conscious souls of Kutub state or perfect masters control such a happening and see that such gross mishaps do not come to pass unless preordained. On the fourth plane,
No, sorry, go ahead.
there are no occult powers, they are divine powers.
Okay. So now we also get to know that when we talk about the occult powers, they purely belong to the second and the third plane. Elsewhere, Baba says that you cannot misuse the occult powers. They are all tricks and magics and all that kind of thing. The fourth plane is like it is the threshold, as I said, between the subtle and the mental. It is power pegged with power, infinite energy. And Baba says it is the shadowy aspect of the infinite power of God. Just imagine, the shadow can do so much. The shadow can bring back a dead man, give life to the dead man. Whereas on the third plane, they can bring back not a dead human being, but a dead animal or a fish or a bird or something. That much of power is there. On the fourth plane, you can create new life. That means create new universes. You can almost do anything that a person wishes to do because he has full energy at his command. He is the sole person who is holding on to the infinite energy aspect. But he has no control over his desires because he is still not in the mental world. So, if the desires overtake him and if the desires somehow induce him or prompt him to make some miracles, then there is a possibility that his entire consciousness, which has been gained over a long period of stone, metal, mineral, etc., it shatters, it disintegrates, and he goes back and starts the journey from the stone state. But Baba says it seldom happens because there are people on the fifth and the sixth, and also the Sadguru, they keep a watch on him and ensure that he does not misuse these powers. If he is about to misuse, he can either be pulled up to the fifth or pushed down to the third, or the powers can be snatched away so that he does not misuse. The idea is not to take away, to punish. The idea is only out of love so that that particular soul who has come all the way to become a Kuber or a Mahayogi, such a high post, he loses everything and goes back. The example that Baba has given in elsewhere, I don't know the year or elsewhere, It is of a scientist who has been working upon making an atom bomb. And finally, he knows that the atom bomb is made. He knows there is this jignasha, there is this desire. Let me see what happens when the atom bomb is, is used, burst, whatever you call it. If he has that, if he knows the knowledge that it can shatter, then he will not use it. He has this desire in his control. But supposing his desires overpower him, and if he uses the atom bomb, the first person to be demolished is himself, So it is something like that, that he has infinite energy, and there is so much of, you can say, what should I say? Temptation to use that power. Let me see whether I can do it, like for, sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he wants, but if he controls and if he knows, if he has read God Speaks, and if he knows the Baba, I don't want to use it. So at least those who are reading and listening, they will not use the powers because they know that it will shatter them. But supposing you do not know, then it is finished. No need.
Yes, yes.
Same thing. No, it's the same.
As shown in the sketch facing page 50.
We already saw the sketch
Oh, that's
facing
subtle
55, where there is a demarcation line between the gross and the subtle.
But now you're talking of these two.
Sorry?
You're talking of these to cover this.
Okay. Let's see. We'll see if
Page 55 aega.
can we show page 55 on the screen.
Okay, 55. Page 55.
That same sketch. Sketch number 1.
Page 55. Yeah. As shown in
Thank
the
you.
sketch facing page 55, the subtle conscious human soul on the fourth plane, possessing the key to the store of infinite power.
Sorry? Is there 1959? No, how does it matter? Chart number 1, correct? So here, just imagine he is in possession of the key to the store of infinite power. How much of this thing? Okay.
Is seen on the threshold of the mental world, confronted by the full blast of intense desires and emotions, which are the aspects of mind of the mental world.
So here you can see, we have seen first the arc where it bifurcates the gross from the subtle. On the subtle world, we have first plane, second plane, third plane. You can see on the chart that it is a subtle world which is the domain of energy. The first plane, it says, with gross nose, eyes, ears, experiences subtle smell, sight and music. On the second plane, you gain consciousness of energy. Now you started getting a little whiff of energy, which means I can just think something and it happens. I think like this and it happens. I think like this and it happens. Oh wow, something is there in me, something is happening. That is the energy. On the left hand side you will see power and you will see energy. On the third plane, yeah, same. Gains greater consciousness of energy. And then there is a threshold, which is the fourth plane, which is between the subtle and the mental. Full consciousness of energy, full power, and threatened by overpowering aspects of mind. Overpowering aspects of mind would mean temptation to use that power to fulfill my desires. It's like that. So that is the fourth plane. All right.
At this stage, the soul experiences, as it were, page 44.
Page number 44. Last paragraph.
Last paragraph, fifth line. At this stage, The soul experiences, as it were, a state of the darkest night.
That is why it is called the dark night of the soul, the fourth plane. You have so much power, so much desire, and which will be prepondering? The desire, you are shattered. The power is there, but you are fortunate enough not to use those powers, then you transcend and go into the fifth.
He finds himself caught up between the devil and the deep, the overpowering incitement by intense desires to wield and use this infinite energy at will proves a treacherous foe at this juncture when the involution of consciousness of the subtle conscious human soul is unfailingly progressing rapidly towards gaining mastery over all desires.
He has already come to the fourth plane. That is the only spot, only, where consciousness may disintegrate and go backwards, retrograde, so to speak. Other than that, the consciousness is always forward moving. Once you are born into a human form, you do not reincarnate or take an animal form or a fish or a bird. Although in certain scriptures they may say it, Baba says it is an impossibility. The consciousness is always moving forward, except on the fourth plane. If the powers are misused, then you can go down. So Baba said the person has progressed so much that he is in the fourth. The moment he goes on the fifth, the beauty is there is no power. There is no power on the fifth plane, and he is now mind. So now he controls mind, now he knows. But on fourth, he has desires which are uncontrollable. So Baba says over here, I'll just see, it could prove treacherous foe at this juncture when the involution of consciousness of this subtle conscious human soul is unfailingly progressing rapidly towards gaining mastery over all desires. That is in the fifth plane. He is so much close to the fifth plane. So if he misuses, it's gone. He is also known as a Kuber in certain terminology or Mahayogi.
If these desires at their zenith overpower the soul on the fourth plane, and if the powers are misused, then the experience of liberating this infinite energy invariably proves fatal